You're watching Let the Quran Speak. Ashura is a day of fasting and reflection connected to the story of the Prophet Moses and the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, Husayn. We want to learn about the lessons of Ashura, and for that, we turn to Dr. Shabir. Dr. Shabir, welcome to Let the Quran Speak.
Pleasure to be on.
Let's talk about the lessons of Ashura, Dr. Shabir. Tell me a little bit about some of what they are.
Yeah, so the Sunnis and Shias remember this day differently. First of all, which day is it? It is the 10th of the Islamic month known as Muharram, the Islamic month following the lunar calendar. And now we're in the beginning part of the month of Muharram. The 10th day is said to be Ashura. The word Ashura itself seems to be connected with the idea of 10. Ashura is 10. Mm-hmm. Sunnis remember this day, as mentioned in the hadith, as the day when Moses and his people were rescued from under the domination of the Pharaoh, in the Quranic story. And Shias, on the other hand, remember this day as the day on which the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Husayn by name, was martyred, slaughtered, massacred, he and his troops, including, many Muslims of the time, under the brutal rule of Yazid, the son of Muawiyah, part of the Umayyad dynasty. The two are hardly conflated because for Muslims remember it as that celebration of the victory that God gave to
Sunni Muslims.
Moses,
yes.
Sunni Muslims, that is. And on the other hand, Shias, they remember it as the day in which the grandson of the Prophet was massacred. So how do Sunnis and Shias celebrate or commemorate this occasion? Celebrate is more, a Sunni term, and maybe a day of mourning is probably the way in which Shias would commemorate this. So for Sunnis, it is recommended that we fast. In fact, there are various reports about this in the Sunni traditions, and the reports are apparently at odds with each other, and also they seem to be difficult to coincide, to make them coincide with what we know from history and from Jewish practice. So let's take it a step at a time. So one hadith says that the people of Mecca, though they were pagans at the time, prior to the religion of Islam being revealed, they used to fast on this day. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the early Muslims also fasted. And eventually, when he went to Medina, now another report comes in, saying that he found the Jews there to be fasting on this day. And when he asked them why they were fasting, they said, we are celebrating the day when Moses...
The victory of Moses, yes.
The victory of Moses and the rescue of the Israelites from under the dominion of the Pharaoh. So then the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, we have more right to Moses. And so he also encouraged the Muslims to fast on this day. And then as a subsequent development, in order to distinguish our fast from that of the fast of the other community, he recommended that we add one day to it, most likely the 9th. And so it's become a custom for Muslims to fast on the 9th and also the 10th. Two different explanations were given for it. One, that it was already a practice pre-Islam, and then it just simply was retained as a good practice within the religion of Islam. And then it was a Quraysh practice. The people of Mecca used to do that. And the other explanation is that it was the people of the book who were doing this. But to make this coincide with what we know to be the practices of the people of the book seems a little difficult, because for one thing, our Jewish friends fast on what is known as Yom Kippur. That's the 10th day of a month, but it is not the first month of the religious year. It is the first month of the there's a difference between the civil year and the ecclesiastical year, and it's the first month of one and not the other. Now, it slips my mind for a moment which is which, but Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year, falls in the month of Tishri, and that is the time when they have Yom Kippur, the 10th day of that month, and that is the day of fasting. So that's the 10th day of a month, but that occurs in the fall. Whereas, on the other hand, the Exodus is thought to have occurred in the month of Nisan, which typically is in the spring. And then Jews don't fast on that occasion. First of all, the occasion is not even on the 10th of the month. It is the 14th of the month. And there was a group of Jews who fasted on the 15th of the month to mark that occasion. But none of this coincides with fasting on the 10th of the first month of the year.
So are you saying that those hadith may not be authentic? The ones that refer to the Jews?
It may be that some confusion occurred, obviously, but the core of the story may have been that the Muslims observed that some Jews are fasting on the 10th of Muharram, and they know that it's also a major celebration that Moses was rescued from the dominion of the Pharaoh. They conflated the two, and eventually, when they thought about the first, the 10th day of the month, and they realized that Nisan was that period, somehow over time the two calendars separated because the Muslims insisted, under guidance from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as mentioned in the Quran in Surah 9, verse number 36, that one should not shift the year, the months. So why the shifting of the month? What is this all about? Well, we know that the lunar calendar is 354 days long. The solar calendar is 365 approximately. And that means that the solar calendar is 11 years longer. And it would mean that once we stick with the lunar calendar, our religious observances for the lunar, based on the lunar calendar, would shift throughout the year. Now, our Jewish cousins wanted to keep the certain festivals fixed within certain seasons within the larger solar calendar. So let's have Exodus or Passover, celebrating the Exodus in the spring, and we have Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in the fall, and so to do that, every so many years they would add 1 month. This is called intercalation. So the Islamic practice was to abolish this intercalation and to maintain the months as they are, without adding a superimposed month. And so the two calendars eventually diverged, and the Muslims remained with fasting on the 10th of Muharram, which they believed was the day when Moses was rescued from, and Moses' people were rescued from the domination of the Pharaoh. And of course, the Jews retained their practice of fasting on Yom Kippur, which is a very different date altogether.
So where does that leave us now?
Well, to cut a long story short,
what should Muslims be doing on this day? And should we remember both Moses and Imam Husayn as well?
Yes. So for Sunni Muslims, that's the practice as it has been established. No doubt, fasting is a good practice. Fasting 1 day, 2 days, even 3 days. Whether it is this day or the other day, it's a good practice. Remembering that Moses' people were rescued from under the domination of the Pharaoh, that's also a good thing. So we should not negate that. On the other hand, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was massacred on this day. We cannot talk about the day without remembering that this grand is not the right word. This major disaster befell the Ummah, and our Shia brothers and sisters are doing their best to commemorate that occasion with that history in mind. So that's a good reminder to the rest of us. While it has not become a Sunni celebration or commemoration, for that purpose, I think individual Sunnis can nevertheless take this as a time of reflection and understanding and sympathy for the practices of our Shiite brothers and sisters. At the same time, we should remark that some of the extremes that go with the remembrance of this tragedy, like self-flagellation and so on, have been condemned even by the Shia clerics. And we can join our voices to that, though it's hardly our place to get involved in the what is really the right of the Shia clerics to give rulings about.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Muslim Media Hub, the new home of Let the Quran Speak.
Here we spread positivity and good. We help people experience the beauty of Islam and help them appreciate and understand Muslims.
This beautiful building we purchased at cost $2.3 million.
Yeah, we've already raised a third of that money, and with your help, inshallah, we can pay off the rest.
So we're looking for people who can give $1,000 each. If you can be part of the select group, that's amazing.
Otherwise, just please give whatever you can. Every dollar counts.
It's our collective responsibility to share the message of Islam with our fellow human beings. Please help us continue this good work.
It's a sadaqah jariyah, something that will continue to be a benefit to the Muslim community long after Safiyyah and I are gone.
Please support our work at muslimmediahub.com.
Your support is zakat eligible and tax deductible.
May Allah bless you and your loved ones today and always. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.